it took a long time for us to create a safe place for even the new members of the team to feel like, I still want to hear from you. Just because she and I did this for 4 years doesn't mean you can't challenge the status quo for us. You might have a better idea than we have. And I swear the product we do every day and how we support our clients changes so fast that if we kept and clipped the wings of our team, we wouldn't be on the radar like we've become. And I'm like really thankful for my teammates for like growing as individuals so our culture could adopt that type of learning speed and ability to pivot and innovate together.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we look at making mistakes. What is your relationship with making mistakes? If you really think about it, I bet that every time you've made a mistake in your life, personal or professional, that you learned from it, you grew from it, and you were able to create more growth because of it. In fact, we'll talk about some different mantras at the end, but I really believe making mistakes is a part of how I've gotten to where I am today and who I've become. All that being said, our core theme for today's conversation is how to create a culture of making mistakes that drive growth. Our special guest is Amy Kohl with AK Operations. They were ranked number 643 on the Inc. list recently this past year in 2023. Fast growing company, small number of people, but Amy shares with us the insights, the wisdom that she learned along the way, some of the mistakes that she made as a leader that you want to make sure you pay attention to, because I think there's lessons to be learned there. Either you've been through them or you will go through them. And you also want to hear about how she looks at making mistakes as it relates to people, empowering people around her, and how that has translated into growth of her company. And all of that is unpacked in today's episode with Amy. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development, coaching managers to become leaders. And we have a very unique process for that, if you will. And if you're curious about where you stand as a leadership in your organization as a whole, then you want to take the leadership effectiveness evaluation. That is a tool that we use to score by 7 dials where you are, and to be able to prioritize what's next for your leadership and to be able to help you create a plan absolutely free. If you're listening to this on the podcast, just go to genehammett.com and schedule a call and say that you heard it on the podcast. You want the leadership effectiveness evaluation, and that will give you a chance to have it for free and get clarity around your leadership plan as your company continues to grow. Just go to genehammett.com and schedule a call today. Now, here's the interview with Amy. Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation about mistakes and what they really allow us to do as an organization. Before we get there, tell us about your company, AK Operations.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you having me. It's going to be a really good day, so I appreciate it. Well, AK Operations was designed to support founder-led and lean sales teams, and we're helping companies go to market with a really effective program. In most cases, it's built in HubSpot, but we serve teams on multiple different tech stacks.
Marketing is not the easiest thing. A lot of my clients, a lot of people probably listening in today, struggle with marketing. What do you wish CEOs knew about marketing that they just don't seem to understand today?
Yeah. Okay, so marketing is it's a word I tend to have beef with, especially when I'm talking to our customers and even some of my prospects. But everyone knows that they need to have marketing, but the discipline or what's driving the success of the marketing is very hard to nail down. And like we kind of talked about this before the call, like there's 100 things it can be. No one really knows like what the discipline's going to be in terms of the sales pipeline. So that's what I'm flipping around for our founders. So I'm helping founders every day define success by how we generate pipeline. And then once we build out our program, it's telling us by the pipeline, how the pipeline moves and the value of the deals we're creating, what marketing activities are really generating those at-bats for our sales teams. So, there's 100 things you can do, but I think the initial channels that we really need to nail down is how do we cultivate and educate our target audience with content, but ultimately it has to bleed all the way into the pipeline. It can't stop at Engager or MQL.
I love that about your approach, because too many marketing companies will say, well, that's not my job. And I think what you've created is a way to kind of connect the two from marketing and sales
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a fresh approach to what people are needing.
100%. And, I'm not saying it's not important. It totally is. But especially when companies are lean and mean and they only have so much bandwidth to do so many activities, like they need to do the right ones. So in order to really focus on the things that are going to move the needle, I say this all the time, like the needle is moving every day. It may not be like a landslide. It might move a little bit backwards, but in terms of sales and how you're going to market as a product or service, it's moving every day. So that single focus on, hey, we need to have 10 customers by the end of the quarter. What are the 30 things we're going to focus on, not the 182? Like, do we know we need these types of email campaigns, this social ad, and maybe 3 or 4 blogs or assets for us to share? That's the discipline I'm hoping to give every single one of our clients at the end of our engagement.
So that's about the work you do with AK operations, but now we're going to talk about the people and specifically the culture. So my frame for this, kicking it off, is, how do you create a culture of making mistakes that drives fast growth?
Yeah. It's funny because it sounds like a bad word. Again, kind of like how I was just talking bad about the term marketing, but mistakes are often perceived as scary or the wrong thing to do or a bad choice. And maybe this is a lot of my comfort zone. And I'll probably honestly, Jean, a ton of my upbringing, I made a ton of mistakes. And I think they're big, bold personalities, and they have really fun stories to tell of all their mistakes. A founder or an entrepreneur is in that seat because they have taken risks, make mistakes. But cultivating a team around you that's also okay with that is really hard. I can't both hires. There's 15 women that work here now, but the initial 5, we were running and gunning so fast, trying to make this company work and figure out what our true process was going to be, what our product was. And some women were running and gunning so fast, mistakes were happening all the time. And then I had this great discipline with another teammate of mine of let's slow down. We're making too many mistakes. But every mistake a woman made told us a part of our process that could go a lot better, or it could go wrong, and let's not do that again. Let's not make that mistake twice. So when we took that, I'd say 30 days to slow down and speed up in a sense, these are the things we always are going to do. And these are the variables that were worth going a little hard or getting a little bit more experimental on. That helped us land in what we do now as a SOP for all of our clients. But that doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, because we're still always innovating. And if I had that culture of do not make a mistake to every one of my teammates, I promise you, it would be half as effective, because every time a girl's or a woman on my team's pushed the needle a certain way that maybe I wouldn't have, every other time ends up really working. And it just adds to the flow of the next customer behind that one. So I have a high tolerance for mistakes, but I still only want to make a mistake once. If I'm making it twice or the team's making it twice, that's an error on my part. And I hold myself accountable to that a whole lot.
Amy just said something called slow down to speed up. I've said this for many years, and maybe it's a cliche, but cliches are a cliche for a reason. Slowing down is about really taking a chance to reflect on something, not just speeding through it, looking for the lesson, looking for different ways to approach these things. You slow down so that you can speed up. Give it a try. See how it works in your world. It works in all aspects, even in the gym. Now back to Amy. I'm smiling on this because in my executive coaching, every once in a while, there comes a time when people are beating themselves up for the mistakes.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a lesson to learn there, but when they freshly make the mistake, and sometimes they're big mistakes, I've made some huge ones in my career. So I get them to think about all of the times in the past and the mistakes they've made and how they've really learned from those mistakes. And we can recount through them, and they're like, oh, well, I learned this, I learned that, I learned this. And so what you're talking about is it for your culture, but at a personal level, we all learn from these mistakes.
100%. Yeah. I mean, not to talk too much about me, but I was an athlete first before I was a business owner. And I felt like every time when you're running plays or showing up, you're taking a little risk. Every time you're running a little harder, or there's things that you can do every single day that push you, and you can decide, am I going to lean in or am I going to lean back? And I think the teammates of mine that have leaned in early on really helped pave the way for the rest of us, for the rest of the team we have now. And there's a ton of respect within our team, the more recent hires. that they have for the OGs on my team. But again, like it took a long time for us to create a safe place for even the new members of the team to feel like, I still want to hear from you. Just because she and I did this for 4 years doesn't mean you can't challenge the status quo for us. You might have a better idea than we have. And I swear the product we do every day and how we support our clients changes so fast that if we kept and clipped the wings of our team, we wouldn't be on the radar like we've become. And I'm like really thankful for my teammates for like growing as individuals so our culture could adopt that type of learning speed and ability to pivot and innovate together.
I'm looking at you on camera, Amy. I'm obviously a little bit older than you. I've been around for 30 plus years inside the workforce. Yeah. And back then there was no such thing as a safe space or a safe place. It is a modern term that is absolutely necessary for people to create that as leaders. I don't know where you got it from, and it's not as important, but like, how do you truly create a safe place for people to share those ideas and to learn from their mistakes?
Good question. So I had an executive coach that actually told me, like, I didn't have the trust in my team originally, Jean. Like, I was pushing so hard for so long just to make sure that the company would sustain, the pressure of an entrepreneur. Like, oh my gosh, I have these people, I have these clients, I'm like indebted to them. I have to work my ass off to make sure I'm like going to cover everybody now. Like, I wasn't listening and considering where they all were. And I slowed down at one point with one of my teammates, and it kind of hit me like a truck. If I didn't stop and listen and learn my team, I was going to lose them. And they're all still here. We made it. But I was coached by a woman who said, okay, you're a high D woman, you're very driven, you're performance-based. This is you. But if you look at the DNA of my team, I had all these different types of women on my team, and all of them were super important to me and how we were going to work together. So I had to understand how to talk to each of them, and I talked to each of them. How I motivate them is different. How I coach them or give them feedback, everything's different. The level, how frequently I talk to them, it's different for each one. And if I wouldn't have done that, I don't think we'd have a safe place for that. But the trust with me got so much better. And, we actually just had our annual team building offsite, and the trust with me is very high, and it trickles down amongst the team in their individual relationships. So, it's important to me that they lean on each other and build their own relationships, because we're lean and small. But they do, and their relationships are thriving now that we have had this ability to learn what each of us are bringing every day. Like, we can't all be, center midfielders on the soccer team. We need a forward and a defender and a goalie. Like, we all have to work together to move the ball forward and score these goals. So learning in each of these 15 women and what makes them tick and what motivates them changed the way I was able to lead. But if I wouldn't have done that, I think we would have stayed in a fragile state and probably would not have done what we've been able to do.
What I'm hearing you say is your executive coach, which is not me, to be clear for everyone here. You did mention woman, but I just want to make sure it was crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
Is that you had to evolve, and you had to learn how to engage with different people. You had to not just be set in your ways of looking at the success you have already built, how you built it. You had to evolve as a leader. Is that fair to say?
100%. Yeah. I am a 37-year-old woman. I have 3 kids. I have all the juggling most women working these days have. But this was my first company. I wasn't brought up in this environment where people cared about how I was doing. I was just doing what everyone had always done around me. And then, it was hard. I remember having my 3rd baby and working my ass off for this company. And although I had really great leaders and mentors there, and they were key for my career, but I felt like I couldn't bring my whole self into work all the time. It's going to be like, I didn't sleep last night, my baby's got colic, and we're not, you couldn't do that. And so I don't think I wasn't able to connect with the company quite the right way to feel like I was an owner of my piece of the business and I was responsible to help drive it forward. So knowing that everyone's bringing their whole self to the job, I want my teammates to feel I heard and understood, in this to be a place that I want them to be happy with. But I'll tell you, the difference of a teammate that's like totally engaged and disengaged would cut us like a knife, because of the level of involvement we have with each other. We're together every Wednesday in office. We strategize with each other on clients that are struggling or clients that are really killing it, and might pass this information back and forth from each other so we can innovate. But if one person was super disengaged, even that would feel worse. That wouldn't happen as much. So keeping a pulse on even the 15 women that we have is still a task, and it's work every day. But the more I've cared for them, the more they've cared for their clients, and thus my business. And that's why I always say I promise to take care of them no matter what. And I know that they see that come to life every day. And it doesn't mean I don't expect high results or like them to do their job every day, because we are, at the end of the day, a very high performing team. But the transparency that I have with them feels really, really good.
Now, Amy just said she evolved as a leader. And my question is, are you evolving as a leader? If you look back over a year ago and you reflected on who you were, the principles you thought about leadership, have they truly evolved, or are you just doing more of the same things? Is your company scaling to the point where you've got to think about communication differently? You got to think about the way you lead and empower people differently, accountability. Everything changes. You have so many people. As your company grows, you add more people, it causes people problems. Are you changing in the way you engage in the tough conversations? Well, my hope is you are, because you've got to evolve as a leader, and you've got to evolve at a faster pace than your company and the people around you, because that's what's required in leadership, is for you to lead the charge. Truly, you've got to evolve as a leader. That's what I've done. That's what I help my clients do. If there's anything I can do to help you, make sure you let me know. Back to Amy. We're here talking about creating a culture of making mistakes that drives growth. Mm-hmm. And I know you believe in leading by example. Is there a mistake that you can look back on in your leadership career that you feel like really shaped who you are as a leader today, other than what we've talked about so far?
Yeah, I used to feel immense pressure to just try to do business with every single company that came across my desk. And I was pushing them so hard because I was terrified. And you might relate to this, Jean, like it was going to stop, or my pipeline was going to slow, and this was going to be a short-lived thing. And I just wanted to make sure that we could sustain the commitments that I had made. And at that time, I wasn't a good listener, and I wasn't hearing and taking the feedback from my team. So I wasn't specializing myself enough. I wasn't really asking the hard questions when people were reaching out to me to work with us. So that hurt us. It also put clients that didn't really fit our ideal customer, or really didn't adopt like the scope that we were wanting to serve and push for them. And they created friction with me and my teammates and so forth. So that part was really hard. The second biggest mistake I made is I put on blinders so much in those first 3 years. My relationships with just about everyone in my life, aside from really probably my clients, was at risk. Like I stopped caring for my relationships, my friendships, my sisters, my husband, my kids. Not that I didn't care, of course I always care, but I was detached because I was so inundated with the pressure, and I didn't, again, know that there were tools to deal with this or resources to deal with this. And I mentioned that I'm 37 because I feel like I'm on the cusp of when people were finally acknowledging like a lot of the mental health and the pressure, like these things that come along with this. I just thought this is what it took, and this is the price I was going to have to pay. And it just didn't have to be like that. But it was, thank God, all my relationships have rebounded just fine. But it was definitely like an all cost thing originally. And I'm so thankful to be on the other side of it, but I can't get that time back. So, I mean, there's definitely a little burn in that, and there always will be, but I will live differently now. And my intentions are very different now, probably for the rest of my life.
I believe that we have to go through things like this to learn the lessons that we're supposed to learn, and that, we don't resist them. And, I have a lot of executive clients that go through tough times, and I borrow this cliches from different people because it actually work, but life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And when you really understand that it's happening for you, like even though you focused on that and it was your choice, now you have probably a very different, deeper relationship with the people around you because you know the importance. And I borrow that from Jim Carrey. It's a funny guy turns into some poetic moments, but life happens for you, not to you. Can you relate to that now, looking back on those mistakes of how they happen for you so that you can have the company that you have today?
Yeah. I think slowing down and learning, like serving myself better as a woman and a mom and a wife and a business owner helped me lead better by example for my teammates today. There's 15 women. A lot of them are having their first and second babies right now. And I joke, I used to like go out to my car and pump, I was in the startup community my whole life. So there wasn't like a nursing room there, that didn't exist. Or I was in the server room actually, which I think is terrible, knowing now probably what I was doing in my breast milk, but it was not easy. And so creating this culture of like, hey, let's be incredibly strong, smart women with these awesome careers, and also like enable this great balance to be wonderful wives and mothers. And I'm doing that so intentionally different. And I know it's kind of like everybody's saying that and doing that. But I don't care when these women get their stuff done. I know they will. If they need to take a minute, they need to spend the afternoon with the baby, or their daughter's just having a hard time with the school transition, they're going to have a fun day at the zoo. They don't owe me any explanation other than, hey, I'm going to get all my stuff done every week, and my clients are going to be clearly on or above pace. I don't care what they're doing. And that freedom, like I have high expectations for them, but they have the freedom to make their own choices because of the safe environment. I don't think I actually had quite that. And living out like my goals in life through my own company feels good. It feels really cool when you're watching other people do it too. The jobs and like the families and the changes it's making for their families is actually the coolest part of this.
So Amy, we've had a great time talking about creating a culture of making mistakes and how that drives growth. Appreciate you being here, sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Wow. Amy is a pistol. I love this. Right at the end, I threw in there that quote from Jim Carrey. I'm paraphrasing when I say this, but life happens for you, not to you. And I've thought about that a lot in my life, and I've seen it in my clients, and I've seen it across personal aspects and professional aspects. And I really believe that it's a more healthy, empowering way to look at the challenges that we face. You have to look at the lessons to be learned, and that this is connected to mistakes. The mistake is not just a mistake. It was there to teach you a lesson so that you learn it and you don't have to keep learning it over time. So just remember that life happens for you, not to you, the Jim Carrey quote. So all that being said, really love to connect with you about your business, about how you're growing, how you're evolving as a leader. If I can help you in any way, whether it be leadership development or executive coaching, go to genehammett.com and schedule a call today. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.